Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. Look who it is. Me and Rory, sort of in the same room, virtually. We're good mates. We've been chatting for a while about trying to do something. Flav, don't hate me. This isn't cheating. This is just it's a monthly shag. That's what this is. It's a monthly shag. I get it out of my system with Rory, and then we can kind of move forward. Here's the idea, guys, right? So what we're going to do is 2 videos. One 30-minute video looking at the month just gone, and then that will be on my channel, and then another one looking at the month ahead, and that will be on Rory's channel. So make sure you go check out Rory's video after you've watched this one. And welcome if you've just come from Rory's video. And then we'll mix it up, won't we? We're going to switch it about. I went on Twitter and I put forward some sort of categories, and we're going to talk through the following in this video. So what we got wrong in the first month, what we got right, what we didn't see coming, player of the month, undercover player of the month, and manager of the month. I've spoken for a while now. Rory, let's check your mic. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm honoured to be here, James. And do you know, just to everybody, I would like to immediately apologise. This is a B-Tech version of Flav. I'm sorry. I'm already punching above my weight. Huge shoes to fill.
I don't know what to say, because if I go nonsense, then Flav sees this and he's fuming. What I will say, actually, so I've had an idea for a wedding present for Flav, that if you watch Jaffin, and obviously we haven't got one this week because he's getting ready for his wedding, I've got an idea for a wedding present. So go on my channel and find out that. Basically, I'll tell you very quickly. We'd love to get the Jaffin podcast in the top 10 of the Spotify charts. So there's a little video with some of Flav's best bits. But as a wedding present for someone who's been doing podcasts for like 10 years or so, we want to try and get him in the top 10. So if you do have the time to do it, it'll be a couple of clicks, which would be really cool for Flav on this weekend where he's getting married, because we love Flav, don't we?
Absolutely. I'm in. Count me in. Nice
one. Right. So let's kick off with what you got wrong. You go first, mate. And there might be a few where we've got similar things. We also asked you guys on Twitter as well, so we can have a look at some of your thoughts as well. But yeah, what did you get wrong? I think I might be able to guess this one.
I mean, I don't think the word wrong, you're very kind and generous, James, but the word wrong perhaps doesn't do justice to what I got wrong. Like, it wasn't wrong, was it? It was a howler. It was a total and utter howler. Perhaps. Do you know it's only comparable? It's not comparable.
You got to tell people what it is first, because there might be one or two people who don't know. But it's mad how big it got, isn't it?
It got big. It got big.
Yeah.
I suggested that Erling Haaland wouldn't hit the ground running. I suggested that Erling Haaland, I don't necessarily think flop was used in terms of what a traditional flop would mean, but perhaps flop from the expectations that were set. I said he'll do very well, and I thought it would be a good season for him if he would score 15 goals. I think I'm scorned by the Chelsea striker curse. I've seen so many Chelsea strikers come with a massive reputation, and I've seen so many examples of them not landing. Combine that with the Bundesliga. This is part of my logic, James. What do you think to this? Obviously, there's the history, and playing in the Premier League is very difficult. But I also thought that a proven track record in the Bundesliga isn't quite as impressive and quite as guaranteed as you may suggest. Timo Werner scored goals in the Bundesliga, didn't hit the ground running. Kai Havertz scored goals in the Bundesliga, looked brilliant there, struggling. Jadon Sancho to a degree.
Yeah.
At one point. So there were examples where I thought simply doing it in the Bundesliga isn't necessarily the statement that people think it is. And I could not be more wrong. And do you know what? I'll take this opportunity to apologise to everybody, because it was bad.
Good, man. Well, I mean, look, this is the thing. It is only football, so you're allowed to get things wrong. But I think a couple of things have occurred here for you. First of all, you got Verned. I think that's one of the strong ones here. Is I think you're right with the Chelsea. I didn't think about the Chelsea curse, which is definitely real, because it's unbelievable, the sort of array of quality. There's no other club that's had the same conveyor belt of stinkers.
What's amazing about it goes right back. Like, when people kind of think about it, they'll always do recent examples, maybe Roman Abramovich era examples. But it isn't that. Like, this is, not many people will know this, but this is sort of a brilliant Scotland striker called Robert Fleck way back in the day. This goes there. This goes Chris Sutton, 98, 99.
Chris
Like,
Sutton was a stinker.
Yeah, this goes there. Like, it isn't, we can talk about the Chelsea strikers in the more recent era. We could talk about maybe Matthias Kesman, Fernando Torres, people like that. But this is as applicable to Chris Sutton and Robert Fleck as it is Matthias Kesman.
And there was rumblings of it with Vialli, and then he kind of came good. And actually, Kasaragi wasn't that great, was he? Didn't totally kill it.
No, Kasaragi was very unlucky. Do you remember Shaka Hislop broke his leg?
Oh, right. Sorry. Oh, yeah, of course. Right, I just remember that him not having huge impact. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, enough. It was struggling. I think he scored. We went away to Liverpool. Do you remember the game where Phil Babb did himself?
Yeah.
That was Kasaragi scoring.
Oh, yeah. Remember that?
That was a Kasaragi.
Great kit. That was a good kit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's part of it. But I think Werner in that recent memory, I think, is a big part of it as well, because I think we really, really did think Werner was actually going to really be capable, and he wasn't. You got a lot of heat for that, and I've got to be honest. I agree with the Werner was poor. Like, at least you saw more from Havertz. Like, there's a mix. Like with the Werner thing, it was like it wasn't even a performance. There wasn't a bit of class there. Like, he was just like scuffing the ball all the time. It was amazing. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying. Well, I'm saying he wasn't capable for what you wanted. But do you know what I think you also got stung by? Is the it's the sort of YouTube pundits curse of looking for the other angle. I do it all the time, where it's like, well, everyone's so certain about Haaland. Hang on a minute. You just sort of drift towards devil's advocate. I do it all the time. But this was the wrong horse.
Absolutely. Wrong horse. I think the counterpoint is a thing, isn't it? Like offering the counter and exploring it. I think it's kind of our place to do that.
Yeah.
It's our place to go. I don't know, in a more recent example, Graham Potter, Chelsea manager. Is it good? Lots of people think it's good, but you have to weigh it up both ways. And I think that's important. But look, in the spirit of détente and the game that we're playing here, this is up there. This is only comparable to, like, nobody's done this on YouTube. This is Alan Hansen. You win nothing with kids, and they win the treble. This is that. This is that bad.
It is bad. Do you know what the thing that saves you, and obviously we don't hope this, although Flav did tweet about, it's like, right, someone needs to nail Haaland here and stop this now. But if he does get injured, because that was the thing, I was listening to you at the time, and I thought, they're not horrific points. Like, there's no, especially when the data set was that 0, and you've got a whole season ahead, and so many different things can happen. Like, it could have gone wrong. And actually, I said on one of my videos this week is that if Man City are looking for Haaland all the time, and if they find him and he scores, which is going to be 8 times out of 10, then they will be amazing. But there's going to be the odd game where, because they're looking for him all the time, a bit like Ronaldo last year, a couple of teams will figure that out and be able to stop them. And whereas previously they've been very careful with, like, not taking risky passes, and it's like water torture. They just go and go and go at you, and then all of a sudden you drop your concentration for a second. I think although there'll be loads of games where they absolutely blow people away, there might be the odd game where they're trying to find Haaland. He has a day off, and it's a bit like the Community Shield or whatever it's called now. It was bad, but there's time. He might get injured, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Here's what I got wrong. Chelsea's start, I got that really, really wrong. And I think I was subject to the same YouTuber pundit curse, because everyone's doing their predictions and everyone was going, Chelsea are in trouble here. It just doesn't feel right. You obviously did it yourself. The preseason was terrible. And I just thought, that's a good squad. And the games that you've had, I'll get them up. The games that you had were, it was a nice run. Apart from the Tottenham game, all of these games you should have been, like, winning, right? So
other thing with it, James, as well, even some of the fixtures that you're thinking about that were wins, like, say, for example, the first day against Everton, it was a Jorginho penalty on the stroke of half time to beat the most depleted Everton team that you possibly could. So it's not been good.
That's it. Because I was going, Chelsea will be fine. Yes, it's been a bad pre-season, but we've seen that in the past, and it's one where you've got Everton, Tottenham, who you generally beat at home, and actually probably your best performance of the season was that. Leeds, Leicester, who were looking bad at that moment in time. Southampton and West Ham obviously is a tricky one. Dynamo Zagreb first game. I really did not expect it to be that bad. You seem pretty certain that it was going to be that bad. Why was that?
Yeah, because do you know this is kind of in keeping with the current trend of talking about Chelsea and managers and whatever. You know, when everybody's talking about Thomas Tuchel, and they're saying that it's so reactive. It's the earliest it's ever been for a Chelsea manager. You know, I think Jose Mourinho, the second time round or first time round actually, might have been like close to this. I think he lasted 39 days and Tuchel lasted 33. But the reason why was because we've been dreadful for a year. So it was coming, this kind of start. Like Chelsea hadn't played well, with the exception of an exemplary performance at the Bernabeu and some games against Tottenham where we've always been brilliant. It's amazing and I'm very happy about it, but I don't quite understand why.
And it was a bit too late, wasn't it? That's the Real Madrid one. It was in vain because you'd let yourself down in the first leg. Exactly.
So we hadn't played well for a year, and the team was all over the place, and we'd become incredibly stale. So I think a lot of people could see that there was a chance that Chelsea would have a start similar to the one that we've had. I certainly thought it.
Yeah. What do you think of the league as a whole? Do you think I always think that, so with YouTube, there's often like videos that just crop up at different times. And around sort of February, March, when there's nothing going on, someone always go, is this the worst Premier League we've ever seen? They'll always have this like debate. Now, when it comes around, you'll remember it. What do you think about the Premier League in terms of how competitive it is? Because I'm saying those fixtures are winnable.
Amazing. Right. Amazing, James. Amazing. Yeah. I think I genuinely, and look, there's a broader conversation here that I don't think this is a place to have it. If you start exploring why is the Premier League so good, what you realise is it's so good because the Premier League is so flush and disgracefully lucrative that the Premier League effectively go into Europe and spray our money across the continent and bring and therefore you end up with a brilliant Premier League. But and I find that incredibly vulgar and it's distasteful and it's hateful. But if you park that, which is difficult to do, if you park that and just explore the 90 minutes of football that we've had the privilege of watching, it doesn't matter who you watch in the Premier League. I think the games have been sensational. It doesn't matter if you talk about watching Brentford is amazing, watching Leeds is amazing, watching West Ham games are pulsating, Manchester United are really excited. Like every club is brilliant, apart from Chelsea. Chelsea are so turgid, and it's pass, hope for the best, pass, lose the ball. But overall, I think the product, and I'm sorry to even call it that, but I think the product of the Premier League, it's amazing. Pulsating stuff every week.
Yeah, I agree. My confusion with the league is the fact that, you've got to spend you've spent 250 million. I mean, how you spent it, how put together the strategy is definitely another video. But to spend 250 million and not really feel like you've moved forward is amazing, and the distance between that and say a Bournemouth is crazy. But then you have, say, a Forest doing the similar thing and you don't even know if they're going to stay up. So I'm sort of confused with the fact that you're right, there's too much money and spending lots of money means nothing, but at the same time I feel like it is so competitive. And Southampton, who I think teams are smarter, clubs are smarter now. Brentford are smart, Southampton are taking a risk, but they're buying young players, and it could very easily come off as being very, very smart. It's interesting, the sort of the gluttony and the stupidity, for want of a better word, sometimes of the bigger clubs, and then that sort of the smarts of the guys that have a little bit less, that make it like a mad league, an absolutely mad league this year. What did you get right this year, this first month?
I think there's a couple of things that I predicted that have come to fruition, and because I had such a bad howler in the first one, do you mind if I give myself two things here? I feel like I need to counterbalance my idiocy.
Sure.
There were two things that I think I predicted that have come to fruition. One was the brilliance of Gabriel Jesus. Like I put a video out on my channel just as Arsenal were in the process of signing him, basically begging Chelsea to hijack that deal. I felt like we could have got him if we tried, and we didn't try, and it was such a mistake because it was never in doubt that he was going to be that good. And the other thing, James, been banging the drum for a long time. You know, people like to make TikToks about me when I get it wrong, but nobody's TikToking my Rodgers shout, are they?
Mate, I mean, sure, we've clashed on the Rodgers shout, and I think we will clash in the future, of course, as well, because we look at the game differently sometimes. But I mean,
I was right. I was right.
Possibly. Possibly. Are you right, or has he not been backed? Are you right, or has he not been backed?
I think whether he's been backed or not, the fact that they've lost 5 in a row or whatever it is, and they are rock bottom of the league, something has gone so wrong. Do you know the other thing that I thought was sort of a worry if you were involved at Leicester? They were rats off a sinking ship, weren't they? Like
in terms of
just play it. Like Kasper Schmeichel, you know, he was Mr. Leicester. He was Leicester City personified. He went out the back door. Like
he's given his time to Leicester, and he wanted to go to France, to Nice, and play European football. I get it.
But the timing and the nature of the move, the way that he did it as well, it was so sort of cryptic and out the back door. Like that was a transfer that you actually had to find.
It was odd. You're right. I think that squad. I mean, that's one of the. I've got him for one of the categories in the video for yourself. But my broader question is like to try and make it not about Brendan Rodgers and you being right about him. So in terms of you being right, you're suggesting that he is a bad manager, or are you suggesting he's at the end of his cycle? Because I think I can jump on board with the maybe he's at the end of his cycle thing, but I don't think I believe in the fact that he's a bad manager.
I think my issue with Rodgers was never that he was a bad manager, but I never quite understood the praise. I feel like he was often lavished and treated with such high regard. He was put on a pedestal. You know, when massive jobs came up, for example, at one point, Arsenal, think of the traditions, the rich history of that club, the scale of that club, who they are, what they represent. Arsenal Football Club. I was astounded. And Arsenal fans, by the way, they weren't particularly anti-Rodgers at one point. They were, you know, and for me, it just blew my mind. I was going, what are you talking about? Like, can he do a job at Leicester? Yep, probably, fine. But he is nowhere near the level of Arsenal. I mean, he's clearly not that kind of manager, not that kind of bloke. If he became, I don't know, got sacked at Leicester, ended up going to Bournemouth, yeah, fine. I think anywhere mid-table or down,
but he took Leicester above Arsenal.
Yes, but it was due to very specific circumstances, both at Arsenal and at Leicester. Like that says as much about Arsenal that season as it did about Leicester. And also, I think it's the nearly man. Can he do a job? Yes, but James, there were 2 seasons in a row, and one of them in particular really resonated with me when people were saying that Leicester were in the Champions League. It wasn't can they do it? They got to a stage in the season, which I appreciate is impressive, but expectations change. And at this stage in the season, they were in. I remember, I was desperate for Chelsea to get there, and people were constantly saying to me, 3 are in, there's 1 place up for grabs. Leicester were the club who ended up dropping out twice in a row. Falling at the last hurdle like that is totally unacceptable, and it is bad management.
Okay, we'll have to move on there. We'll return to Brendan.
You don't like it. You don't like it. Sorry, Jay. I appreciate we're on your home turf.
No, it's fine. Hey, it's fine. This is it. This is the point. It's time for Allcott to get a bit uncomfortable. Here's something I got right. Backing Arteta from day one to now. For me, the way I feel about...
Can I ask you a question?
Go on.
James, I've got to interrupt you. Just one question.
Yeah.
Is it too early for you to anoint yourself in this way?
I don't think so, because I feel like I can see what's coming. I'm trying not to give away things later in the video, but my big call is one that involves Arsenal. And I just think... For where they were, I remember doing a video when they were sort of deep in the mire, and it was they'd won the FA Cup, but they then had that tough period. And I think we'd been on the kickoff and we had different views on it. I think I compared him to Lampard in terms of being like having that leadership, and you were like, what? And I get it. But what I was trying to get across was less so his standing within Arsenal, but what I was impressed with in terms of the education that he'd maybe had, and the fact that I just liked what he was coming out with. And I keep referring to Arsenal at this moment in time, and Arteta a lot at the moment. Like, say with Tuchel just... There were elements of the sort of throwing under the bus. Like, those interviews are so hard for managers when it's not going well, right? And Arteta's had to go through quite a few of them. And sorry, coming back to that, I did a video in November in that period. And I was like going, I get it. I get people aren't sure about Arteta because he's kind of new. And like you say, the data set's not there, a bit like with Haaland. But I looked at the squad and it was like this squad, in my eyes, I said this squad can't get fixed till 2023 because of the contracts that they'd done. It was an utter mess. And we're now in like the start of 2022, season, and he's fixed it. That's a good squad. That's a really good squad. And I think he's taken them a long, long way. And so, yeah, I see them easily finishing in the Champions League this year. Easily. Do you agree?
Do you really?
Yeah.
Even, firstly, I think something that I got potentially wrong was Arteta. But I think there are two things at play here. I think on one level, their start to the season is mesmerising, and I have to hold my hands up. I didn't see this coming, not in this way. I thought their recruitment was also like astonishingly good, probably the best overall window in my opinion. And I think that's part of management. That's part of being a good manager, recognising where you're weak, picking up bargains at times. Gabriel Jesus was an astute signing. Zinchenko, very clever, allowing Saliba to stay that extra year when they could have probably done with him last year, but let him stay, perfect his craft, come back.
That's a good point as well, not buying a striker. But I know you probably feel differently. Yeah. I think that was I know it wasn't. Right. If they get over the line with the Champions League, then, wow, God, you can anoint him there and then. But still, I think sometimes to be sensible and not spend, that's meant that they could get Gabriel Jesus. If they'd gone and got a striker, it wouldn't have been Gabriel Jesus. And so sometimes you've got to kind of, you've got to stand still to go forward a little bit down the line. And I think he's been proven right there.
I think that's true, but this isn't necessarily the way I feel, by the way, because I am very impressed by what Arsenal are doing. But just to explore it, at the time of recording, right, they've beaten Fulham, which you would expect them to do regardless of the resurgence. They've beaten Leicester, who we've established are appalling. They've beaten Palace, who at that time hadn't had any pre-season for various reasons. They've won the games that they should win, and then they went to Manchester United. Arguably their first tough test. And they played very well, but they got beat. I don't necessarily agree with the point I'm making here, but I think we've got to explore it.
Yeah, look, that's it. You never know, do you? I think but we're in the business of trying to make those kind of predictions, and I think Arsenal are in a really good place, really, really good place. And
so, who do you think? So, do you think that Chelsea don't make top four then? If you think Arsenal do,
I'm going to be doing a predictions video on that, so I'm not going to give it away. But I've just been really impressed. I like watching. I think they're my favourite team to watch right now as well. That's the other thing I would say. But yeah, Chelsea. Yeah, that will be interesting, and that could be maybe that's a bet down the line in terms of Arsenal and Chelsea, because that'll be interesting. Because that's the thing, you don't, like you say, you don't know what's going to happen with Potter. Like, is he gonna like create this free flowing football, or is he gonna look like a chump in a few weeks? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's keep going. So what we got next? Something you didn't see coming. Do you remember?
Mitrovic for me. Yeah, Mitrovic.
Shout.
I didn't look. I've kind of always thought that he was good, but I thought that what he may be was president of that purgatory, that purgatory state, which isn't the Premier League and it isn't the Championship. What I would say, it's the Cameron Jerome,
the Dwight Gale,
Cameron Jerome is
Ashley
Cameron
Ward.
Jerome is president. Yes, there are some sort of striking examples of players that exist in purgatory, too good for one and not good enough for the other. And while I didn't necessarily think he was that, because of the volume of goals that he scored, he wasn't just top goal scorer, he was like breaking all sorts of records. It was like when Henrik Larsson was doing it in Scotland. It's like obviously he can do it elsewhere, because he's not just top goal scorer in the SPL, he's literally like changing the game up there. So I thought Mitrovic would contribute. I thought he would score goals. I didn't think it was going to be a Cameron Jerome scenario, but I didn't think this.
Oh, mate. I mean,
I didn't think this. He's unplayable, man.
The goal against Tottenham is disgusting.
He's unplayable.
Yeah. Do you know why he's unplayable? So a lot of people who, when I sort of tweeted, what's everyone thinking? There's a lot of people talking about Mitrovic scoring in the Prem, full stop, and then Fulham's performances, things like that. The reason I think they're scoring, what Silva deserves huge credit, because they've been brave enough to play the way they played in the Championship, which is like, I thought you come up, you can play all expansive, and then when you come into the Prem, you curl up into a ball and and hang in there a lot of the times. And they play really wide, and because they play really wide, Mitrovic, although he's not the quickest, he's got quite a lot of space in the penalty box to sort of bully different people. And I saw it firsthand twice last year against QPR, where we had some decent centre-backs, and he just sort of went, no, and he just lean on them. Like, it's sort of clever little bits of movement, and his finishings, it's there for all to see. And he looks a bit leaner, a bit quicker, doesn't he, as well? But yeah, I agree. I think Mitrovic, it's crazy what he's doing so far. What have I got?
Crazy. It's absolutely like, but in some way, like, I'm really happy for him because he's an example, isn't he? Of, keep at it, because it didn't go well for him first time, and he's back, and he's absolutely like. At what point do people start going, well, Chelsea need a striker? Is it, at what point do people start thinking about that? Like, if he keeps scoring like this, and like he's just sensational. I just rate him so highly now.
I'd be intrigued to see him at a team like that where it's a little bit more congested, and I wonder if because he'd get so many more chances, he'd still be fine, or if that would, because I think sometimes when there's lots of bodies there, then that can make it a little bit harder for him, which sounds counterintuitive because he's not the quickest. But I just think when there is that little bit of space, or certainly from what I saw last year in the Championship, teams just couldn't handle him. They couldn't handle him at all.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, his confidence is obviously sky high when he's scoring goals like that against Tottenham. Here's what I didn't see coming. I didn't see Forest buying 22 players. I think it's Serge Aurier's coming on like as a free agent now, and it's like, I was sort of like, I always want to root for the promoted sides, and so they had me. I was with them, and then they just went a little bit too far. Like 22 is just like dangerous. It feels dangerous.
I really want them to go down, James.
And, mate, that's such a good. The thing is, right? That's the story now. The story's not staying up. The story's going down, and I always think that makes life really, really hard because it affects the questions, it affects the media, and therefore it affects the fans because they read into all of that. And when it was 12 or 15, you were in a situation where it was like, oh, well, they had to. They had 15 players leave and they had to upgrade. 22, I see a whole host of problems because you got a team where you've bought Lingard and Morgan Gibbs-White, and I don't really think you should be playing both of them. You've got midfielders coming from. You've got about 5 left wing backs, all new signings. Like, how are you supposed to create some kind of like cohesive culture?
Cohesion,
I'm worried about them.
I agree. I hope. I hate being the sort of sneery one, but when I'm with you, I'm always going to be the sneery one.
Yeah, sorry.
I just want them to go down. I just really want them to go down.
Yeah, like, you lose your underdog status, don't you?
Checking their results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more.
I find myself checking their results. Like, realistically, when I'm, obviously I'm preoccupied by Chelsea, right? So in terms of whose results I should be checking, I should be seeing what Tottenham up to, what are Arsenal up to. Let's hope they've been beaten because that will benefit Chelsea. Man United could do with their run coming to an end. I find out going to people, hey mate, how'd Forest get on? Like, I don't care.
Mate, second bottom at the moment, lost last 3. Yeah, that's what I mean. It becomes about the story, which is, and that's where they've spoiled it a little bit because they were the sort of underdogs who, have had to wait so long to get back into the Premier League, and they've kind of blown that out the water a little bit. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they cope with all of it. Because I did some stuff on them at the start of the week, and it's. Before they were buying players for specific profiles and it made complete sense. And I'm struggling to see the sense in it now. So I don't know why they've got a nut Serge Aurier. Like, what? They've literally like got rid of a squad and they've got a completely new squad, and it's a bit dangerous. Give me your player of the month and your undercover player of the month for the last month.
My player of the month, I went for Gabriel Jesus. I went for Gabriel Jesus. I just think that if you acknowledge the Arsenal resurgence, which we both do, obviously Arteta deserves an awful lot of credit. But if you were to put it down to one player, which you can't do, I appreciate it's a team game, but one player who's come in, revolutionised the team, changed the beliefs, has the experience, is a proven winner, pure class at various points in various games, and then doing the ugly things as well. Do you know a moment that will? Like, I think his best moment in an Arsenal shirt. Do you see the goal I think it was the first goal that Odegaard scored against Bournemouth? There was a shot. I think the shot went from Martinelli, keeper saved it, Odegaard open goal. The build-up play of Gabriel Jesus, like it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. The ball was up a mile in the sky. It's a hoof clearance from Ben White. You know, when it's up there and spinning and horrible, and he controls it in the way that he managed to make it drop the way a golf ball drops. You know, when a golf ball just goes, whoop, he did that to a football, turned back to goal. You know, he didn't get an assist or a goal. And when a striker's doing things like that, I think we have to acknowledge their brilliance.
Yeah, man. I think there's this.
Who have you gone for?
I went for player of the month. I went for Haaland. I couldn't get away from it. Although, like I say, I think actually I might concede and let you have Jesus, just because the thing with, it's not that Haaland can't do both. He just doesn't need to, because Man City are just camped outside the opposition's box. But you're right. Jesus he comes short. He runs in behind. He sort of does both in the same action. He drifts over to the left, gets involved. Jesus is a good shout. I just had the amount of goals that Haaland has scored. I had to kind of go with him. Your undercover one was Mitrovic, who we've spoken about. So we'll move on from that one. But I think Mitrovic certainly, and then a gentle nod as well. I thought Kieran Trippier has done very well for Newcastle. But he does look good. He will be. What a smart move by him. Get there at the start. You might win an FA Cup or whatever. He'll be at the start of it. Like, who knows if he'll be there at the end of it when they win the Premier League and stuff. He looks so much better than I don't know if he's just become wonderful, but he will be a god to Newcastle fans. He'll be an absolute god. But he does look great. That free kick against Man City was outrageous. What did you rate the free kick? The taking out De Bruyne? Do we just whacked it?
Yeah, I rate it. I rate it on some level. I think it's quite. Do you think it was a ploy?
What do you mean?
Do you think it was purposeful?
Oh yeah, I mean, he said afterwards. I don't know if you heard him afterwards. He said, "Well, I want to win the game, and De Bruyne is about to be he's going to be on the goal. It's De Bruyne, so I took him out." And he got away with it. Well,
I've got no issue. I've got no issue with that. Yeah, take it. I mean, you have to do what you do. I mean, people don't like to acknowledge this, but one of the most significant contributions that Antonio Rudiger has ever had to Chelsea was fouling De Bruyne in a Champions League final.
Yeah, man. It's funny, isn't it? It's or Solskjaer did it once. He just literally rubber tackled someone. I think it was Liverpool. And as he's walking off, he went, I had to take him out. Literally just see him.
And do you know when you don't? Do you know when you don't do it as well as a footballer? It's so annoying when you don't do it as a footballer. You think, do you know there was one actually? It was when Manchester United played Liverpool. Mohamed Salah runs through on goal. Can you remember this goal? A couple of years ago, maybe. Salah runs through on goal. Obviously, he's about to score. Dan James was the defender. Dan James didn't foul him. And you're like, mate, what are you doing? I know that's not how you should react to football. I know that's not how you should go to football or whatever. But that's what he said. And I was just like, oh, gosh.
Do you know what, the only time I played Pro Evo 6 for far more years than we should have, me and my mate Craig, because as a pair we were trying to win the Euros with England, and we spent the last year of uni, couldn't do it, and then he took his PlayStation 2 back home, and we tried and anyway we'd finally we were 2-1 up against Italy in the final, and you spent 3 years trying to win this tournament, right? And in the last minute they got a player and he got put through, and I was the guy chasing the guy. Craig was like, take him out. And I was like, I can't win this way. We spent 3 years on this. I can't do it. And he went through and he scored. And we were so close to falling out. He's
like, take him out.
I know, mate. I just couldn't do it that way.
You know the weird thing about you here, James, as someone who's played football with you,
I know.
I can't believe that you wouldn't do that on a computer game, because I've played football with you on the pitch, and I know you do it on the pitch.
Yeah.
I know you do it on the pitch.
And do you know what?
You wouldn't do it to a computer game in a fictional scenario.
Yeah. We sort of we went, no, and then there was sort of deathly silence, and then I went, should have taken him out, shouldn't I? He's like, oh, you think? So yeah. Anyway, my undercover player of the month, Pascal Gross. Putting Man United to the sword, killing Leicester City the other day. It's going to be interesting to see, with Potter gone, if they can kind of keep it going and who the new manager will be for them. But I thought he deserved a shout, playing in a different role for Brighton, so I've put him forward. And that is the first section done, Rory. Okay. We're going to just keep talking.
I thought it was good fun.
We're going to just keep talking.
That was good fun, mate. So do we just roll straight in? Is that how we're doing it?
We just rush it. Right, guys, if you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. Go check out Rory's video right this second. And let us know what you think about the categories. Are there new categories that we need? We're going to be looking forward at the month ahead now with Rory on his channel. So talk about some of the storylines there. So go check that out.